In today's video, I'm dropping the ultimate guide on how to make stylized characters inside of Blender. We're going to be going through the entire process step by step over the next couple of hours. This is going to be basically a mini course right here on my YouTube channel where you can go through every single step from start to finish. But let's hop straight into step number one. Here we are over in Blender. The version I'm using is Blender 5.2 beta. By the time you're watching this, it's probably going to be out of beta. So you can go down the latest version. And over here, throughout the entire tutorial, any button I press will be over here on the left. So you can see what I'm clicking. And if you have any questions or run into any issues, feel free to comment it down below. So step number one, we need to get the reference into our scene. Now, I'll add a link to it for you to download down below. Imager is banned in the UK, so I will figure out what to give it to you through. But so to add an image, we need to go Shift A, image reference, click on it, go find the reference, and then once you open it, just click add empty image, whatever. Okay, so I added it in from the side view. So if you want to just click over here, we'll just press on the little accent key on the top right of the keyboard. Then this will add in your thing like directly here, or you can press Alt R when you add it in. Okay. So what I'm going to do first, I'm going to change this opacity to something like 0.25. That's just something I usually like working with. And I'm going to drag it up so the feet are roughly on the floor. There should be a line, so you see that. Okay. So for this one, I'm just going to duplicate and I'm going to go RZ90 and I'm going to press negative so she's facing the right way. Okay. Then for this one, I'm going to drag it off on the X-axis, so G and X. And then for this one, I'm going to go to front view and I'm going to go GX and line up with the center. It should be like it is mirrored, so it should be pretty easy to tell that looks about center. Okay, cool. Now, remember, I'm not a 2D artist. I can't draw. Well, I can kind of draw. I can't design characters. This is not my skill whatsoever. On a program called PureF, I have a couple of different reference images that I've sourced from Pinterest, and those will be informing roughly. I haven't actually picked colors directly, so we will be picking those throughout the tutorial. But yeah, if you are going to be making your own character, feel free to use your own reference image and just follow along with this workflow and basically what I do. So yeah, let's start with step number two, which is modeling. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is go to front view and I'm going to zoom in. And firstly, we need to make sure our cursor is in the center of our scene. So you see it's over here at the bottom. I'm going to go Shift, if it's not, you can go Shift S, cursor to world origin. Okay, then we can go Shift A, add in a mesh cube. Okay, from here, we can go G, Z, and drag it up towards roughly in the area of the torso. If you want, you can go into wireframe to make it see-through so we can see the reference while we are working. Now, I'm going to press we'll go over here, click into edit mode, or just press tab on your keyboard. I'm going to scale this down with S to its roughly the size that we need. Bear in mind that the default cube that we add in is 2 meters tall. So if you add in another one, I'm just going to press tab, go back to object mode, Shift A, add a cube. This is 2 meters. So you can see obviously currently she's like 2.5 meters tall almost. So we can very easily change that later. So we don't have to stress about it. So I'm going to go click on the cube again, press tabs, go back into edit mode. And then from here, we can go add an edge loop. To add an edge loop, we just need to press Control and R. And I'm going to line it up roughly with the like dip over here, if you get what I mean. From here, I'm going to select the bottom and I'm going to go G. So I just hold left click and drag to select it like that. I'm going to drag it down slightly with G and Z. So Z is up and down. And I'm just going to scale up slightly to follow with the shape of the character. Okay. And then I'm going to go extrude down to, I don't know, roughly about here. Well, actually, let's do about roughly to the like halfway point of this area. So I'm going to scale it up a little bit. And then from here, I'm going to go add an edge loop. So Control R and hover roughly in the center so we can add a center edge loop like this. Okay. Then I'm going to select this top bit, scale it up a little bit, and then extrude up a bit to roughly at the like armpit, scale up. And then if you didn't get it, I'm just scaling just no specific axis, then drag up to roughly the neck area and scale down to about here. Then we can go to the side view. And obviously you can see it's not very lined up. If we want, we can drag the reference back a little bit, back to object mode, and then select this G, Y. So we can make it so that the torso is roughly on the center. So this line is the center of the scene. So we can select the object, go back to edit mode, and then we can basically just manually adjust all of these. So I'm just going to select, so we can just select like this, drag select again. I'm just going to go G and Y. So Y is going back and forth. So you see these line up to this, the Y, this is the X, and that's the Z axis. Okay, so I'm just going to go and follow roughly the reference image, going along like this. Okay, so just trace the outline of the whole character. Again, just selecting G, Y, and continue. From here, since we have the center line, what we can do is, actually, let's firstly go and actually mirror this, because obviously having to deal with a mesh like this that isn't being mirrored is quite difficult to make it properly work. So we can add any asymmetrical things we want later, but for now, let's go delete the left side and add a mirror modifier. So to do that, I'm going to go to wireframe, select the left side, like just everything mid left of this middle line, X, and delete the vertices. From here, I'm going to go modifiers, add modifier, and search, and I'm just going to type in mirror. Cool. Press enter. And from here, you can see off the rip that we now have it being mirrored. And if I select anything, it gets mirrored. If it is not working, you may be in the wrong axis. So currently, I'm in my front view. So you see front orthographic. And if I look at my mirror, it's mirroring on the X, and the X is this axis over here. So it's mirroring from here over to here. Okay. But if you were working in this view, then it would need to be the Y axis because it's going from here over to here kind of thing. So you get what I mean? So you may just need to mess around with these. And the other thing we need to change is the clipping. So turn clipping on. What that does is any vertices in the center will stick to the center. Cool. Now, what we can do is we can make this like whole torso a little bit rounder by selecting this edge and then pressing G twice, like this. So G twice. And you can see we can drag it left or right. I'm just going to drag it to the right a little bit, like this. Then select the back and G twice a little bit and drag it to the left. Okay. Another thing we can do also, if we want to add one more edge loop, is to add it down the side like this. And then if we do there, we can grab this edge with, you can select this edge with Alt if you didn't get that. So Alt left click, then G twice and drag it to the left. And then same thing for the back. So G twice and drag it to the right. Okay. And now you see we get a decently round, good look that is following our reference. So one of the most important bits when getting this base torso done is to have our loop for our arm, our loop for our leg, and then the loop for our neck. So those are the three goals that we need to achieve. So the first one we can do for the leg. What I'm going to do is I'm going to select this and I'm going to extrude down. Okay. Then from the side, I'm going to go to face select up here and then select these two faces. And I'm going to go X faces. Going back to side view. Then I can go to vertex select and I'm going to go to wireframe. So now I can see through and I can select individual vertices. From here, we can go roughly make this look a little bit more circle like this. And if you'll make it a proper circle, we can enable an add-on. So I'm going to go edit preferences. Okay. Then I believe we go to add-ons and look for loop. No, we have to go to get extensions and look for loop tools. Okay, so look for loop tools and click install. Once that's done, you see installed loop tools. We can go click X. From here, we can go Alt left click and you see it selects this whole loop that we just made. And then I think we can right click and go loop tools, circle. Okay, so you see now it's a perfect circle. And if you see, obviously, if we go to the front view, it's not really lining up with where the leg would start. So we can rotate and then G to position. So R for rotate, G for position, and then roughly line it up with where the leg should be. And then if you're unhappy with any of the positions, so sometimes depending on where you have to place the leg, something may not look right from side view. So you see just having like a nice consistent gap may be good. If you need to move anything, sometimes these, like if they above, you see if they're at an angle like this, it's not going to look very good. So make sure that these have a nice angle. So maybe just need to like do like there. anything along those lines to make it look proper. Okay, and there we go. So now we have our first loop done for the leg that is ready to extrude down. Then from here, we can get the arm. So I'm going to go to the side view. I think to an extent, this might not be very anatomically correct. So I may need to have to make this back a little bit further back. So I'm just going to drag select like this, and I'm just going to go GY and bring her back out a little bit more. This gives us a bit more space for the whole arm. And I think we may need to make some overall changes slightly. So I'm just going to wireframe, selecting these, maybe bring them a bit forward. And based off of this, let's actually get a bit better setup for the neck as well. So maybe just make it a little bit wider, and then maybe bring this down a little bit. And this, yeah, let's get the neck in first. So the easiest way to get the neck from this sort of area is to select this middle vertex, and I'm going to press Control B to bevel. And you see nothing's happening right now. So I can press V, that's for vertex, because we only selected one vertex, we're not selecting a whole face. And you see that gives us a triangle like this. Now you can see these faces have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 vertices. You don't really want that. These are called n-gons. You want to have quads, which are four-sided faces, and sometimes triangles, especially in this style we are going for. I'm going to press K for the nav tool, click from here, hold Shift, click to here. That as a cut, and then I can click here, hold Shift, click to here. Okay, press Enter, and now we have quads. This is all have 4 vertices. This doesn't matter because this is going to be turning into the neck, so it doesn't matter how many vertices it has. And I'm making circles. I'm going to right click, loop tool, circle, and there we go. I'm going to go front view, and I'm just going to drag this up a little bit. So I'm going to go GZ, and there we go. That sets up a little bit of there, and now we are ready to do the arm. So for the arm, I'm basically just going to select these 2 faces, and I'm going to press I to inset. Okay. So you see, this also gives us 6 vertices. So if I select here, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So similar to like the leg has 6 vertices. This has a little bit more, I think. So this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay. So it doesn't really matter too much, but this is how it works out. And what I can do, also do the same thing. So I'm going to go right click, loop tools, circle, and then we can go to the front view, and I'm just going to G and drag it out. Okay, cool. So now we have a good start to the torso and are ready to set up everything else. So let's start out with the legs again. So I'm going to go back to vertex select, Alt left click on this loop, get back to front view, and I can just extrude down. Usually what I do is I'll take this and rotate this out a little bit, and then we can kind of get it ready for whatever shape the leg's going to be. Generally, the leg from the front is a little bit more squished on the side. So I'm going to go S and X. That scales it down a little bit, roughly in size, and then we can go to the side view, and then generally the leg will kind of extend out a little bit in the front. So I'm going to go S, Y, scale it up a little bit, and then also drag it forward a little bit. Okay, so maybe a little bit more. So scale S and Y. Then we can extrude out. Generally, I extrude to roughly the knee. So we can place it over here on the knee. We can rotate, maybe scale it down. Okay. And you see this drawing over here is roughly the leg, like a really baggy trousers. And we can also just model the trousers. We don't have to really worry too much about this leg anyway. But let me just show you how to roughly model it. So I'm going to scale it down even a little bit more to roughly line up with this. Okay. Then we can extrude out. Maybe this will be the kind of knee area. So scale it down a little bit just to add a little bit more definition here. Then we can extrude out. We're going to rotate, scale. So generally, we're using the same modeling tools. We're extruding, we're rotating, and we're moving, or moving, extruding, rotating, scaling. That's what I'm doing here. So just extrude, rotate, scale, move. So it's just extrude with E, scale with S, G for move, R, S, or R, G, S. Like you just do using the same tools over and over again. So I think the legs literally just like disintegrate over here. So let's just leave it about there. Now let's go front view and make sure these aren't too small. So you can see the leg scaled down really like way too much. So we can go select all of these, S, X, and scale it up a little bit. I think that looks roughly fine. This may also need to scale up a little bit. I think we just lose all definition in the legs. So you'll see here, if I go side view, that we'll probably need to have another edge loop like roughly here. So I'm going to add another edge loop and scale on the Y like this. So you see there. So you see that just gives it a bit more there. And we can also probably scale it up on the X-axis. And you see there, that makes it look a little bit better. Okay, and yeah, I don't think that's too bad. If you want, we can also like rotate this to make it line up with roughly where the feet will line up. So you see this is probably like where the foot would be. Okay, and then just make sure your legs look fine from the side view. They're roughly like a similar shape. So from the side view, you can see like the whole general concept behind the legs is usually the back leg is kind of roughly straight and then has a bit of a curve. Then the front has a bit of a curve, and then the front is roughly straight. So it kind of does like a little bit of an S shape throughout the whole thing. And then so S like this, and then kind of a straight line, if you get what I mean. So front view is also similar, just have like the muscle. If you know any anatomy, stuff like that can be useful, but yeah. Okay, let's get started on the arms. Now, I've drawn the arms down in something called an A pose. If you're working on a model like this, it's probably better to do something called a T pose, which is essentially you just take the arms and do them directly out. So a lot of the times references won't do a T pose. So I'm going to show you how to use a reference in this A pose and still get the rough like proportions. So you have two options. Firstly, you could select this like arm loop. I'm going to go face select these two and go Shift S and cursor to selected. Now you see the 3D cursor gets put here. And the reason for that is we can use it to either add an object into this position, or we can also rotate or move something around this position. So the two options are either A, you can go Shift A, add in a circle, and then I can go RX 90 to rotate it. And you see, it literally lines up almost perfectly. And the reason for that is because now we know if this is our pivot point over here, and this is the end of the hand, then this going around to here is where the arm would end up if you drag it out to the side. Now, the other thing we can do is we can select the reference image and go the period key on our keyboard, or just up here to the top, this transform pivot point, and change it to the 3D cursor. From here, we can just rotate, and you'll see it rotates the hand up like this. So it's rotating the reference from that point. So if we do this, we can also just duplicate it. And if you want to name them, so we have empty like 002. So we can just name this like arm rotate. And then I'm just going to click on the little eyeball to turn it off, and then grab the other one. So this one, it can just be like front view. Okay. Just to kind of organize it a little bit. So I'm going to hide the front view and bring back the arm rotate, and then select this one, rotate until it lines up like this. Okay. Then we can press N, or actually, I'm just going to clear my annotations. Cool. So from here, we can go select the arm. So these two faces, and then we can just go extrude out. I'm also going to change my pivot point back to median point, just so we can like rotate and scale from this point. I'm going to rotate, scale down to roughly like where this middle joint is. Then I'm going to extrude all the way to the wrist again. So rotate, scale so it roughly lines up. Then for the forearm, we can add an edge loop, and you see the kind of position wise, if you have your, let's show you like this, your forearm will kind of hit the peaks. So like this is a peak, and then this is a peak. So you see it's kind of offset a little bit. It's not, they don't line up at the same point. So what we can do is rotate and scale up. So like this. Okay. Usually I'd think it'll probably a little bit closer in. So like this to here. That makes sense. And then you can sometimes add another edge loop roughly like on the forearm bit. And we're going to rotate and scale it in like this. Okay. And maybe the wrist a tiny bit smaller. It helps if you see everything in context. So just kind of get a shape in and then edit it later. Now we can go add a little bit more definition to the shoulder. So I'm going to add another edge loop and use this to kind of scale down. And then this is an easy way just to use it. So now we have the shoulder and then the arm. And then feel free to change anything over here. Like you can change, like now that you're getting more kind of information about how the character is going to look, because we're adding this stuff in, it makes it a lot easier to make changes. So sometimes I like to kind of have the whole sort of this upper neck area, whatever, have kind of extra definition in terms of having the shoulder set up nicely. You may also need to have a second edge loop over here, because the whole thing with doing a T-pose is if now your range of motion has to go from here all the way down. So you may need to have a another edge loop over here so that you have enough vertices on your shoulder. Because if you go from here to there, all of these vertices, like if you bring your arm down, it's only going to be 1, 2, and that's your entire shoulder. So you may need to have extra edge loops over here. You can even use a triangle over here, like go K for the knife tool and then just add an edge loop like this. But for now, I think this is fine. We're doing low poly. It's kind of a style. Okay. So now I'm going to work on the neck quickly. So we can go select this, and then I'm going to bring back, so I'm going to hard the arm rotate, and I'm going to bring back front view. Okay. And then I can go to face select, grab this face, and I'm just going to extrude up towards the top of the neck. There we go. That looks good. And yeah, so you see, we have a good start for the whole body. I think there's a lot of proportions that are going to be changed as we go along, but this is kind of the whole point of making something called like this, which is a base mesh, because it's a good start and you can change proportions very easily inside of 3D. So I wouldn't stress too much, because like, yeah, we're kind of tracing the same size that like the actual clothing would be. So it's going to change a lot once we actually get proper clothing set up and all of that stuff. But yeah, I'll show you very easily how to change proportions of the characters. So let's actually get the hands in here. So I'm going to bring up the arm rotate, hard the front view, and let's make the hands. So the hands may be a little bit of a complicated topic for some people, or a difficult thing to model, but I'm going to try to break it down as simple as possible. So from the start, you can see that the hand has like two edges, and then has one at the top like this. This is quite nice because if we scale it down like this, you see we have the edge at the top, but sometimes you'll end up with it being like this, where it's like you have the 3 edges on either side. So if you took this and scale it down, you'd see that we don't have, like, if it becomes like this, you don't have any edges on the top and any edges at the bottom. So make sure that you have, if I select this and go right click loop tools circle, so make sure you have your vertices at the top, because now if we extrude out to like where the fingers start roughly, we can go scale Y, and you see now we have enough vertices to kind of shape up the hand a little bit. Okay. So what I'm going to do is from here, I'm going to select the hand, add another edge with Control R. I'm going to scale Y like this, and then we can kind of like roughly shape up. Like you see, like the hand obviously has a little bit of a, a little bit of a shape to it. So it's not just a straight line across. So let's add that in. So I'm just going to go Z wireframe, and I'm just going to pull this back, and then same thing over here. So you see just a little bit of a shape to it where it just goes like, come on, whoa, Blender's crashing. There we go. So just a little bit of a shape like this, and then we may need to have an extra edge loop for the thumb. So I'll show you how to add that. I'm going to go K for the knife tool. I'm going to click from here over to here. You can hold shift and that will add it to the center. Same thing, hold shift, and then I'm just going to click over here. So we add a triangle in here. Reason for this is if I go to top view, I'm going to drag these vertices in a little bit, and then these vertices out, and then this is what the thumb is going to extrude from. So the thumb is going to come out like this, okay? So the fingers will be like this, and then the thumb will be here. Cool. So let's make the fingers. So for this style, I'm just going to do what's called a mitten glove. Just essentially, we're going to take these, and this will be what the fingers are going to kind of be. So I'm just going to extrude out all the way like this. Okay, and then I'm going to line it up. So about here. The hand is roughly, so like if you look at the hand, it's roughly like 50%. 50% fingers, 50% hand, or like palm of the hand or whatever. So if you see here, like here to here, and if we just kind of use our fingers to measure, then the tip of the finger should be roughly there. So I'm going to make it slightly shorter. You don't want to make it super long. Sometimes you make the whole hand a bit shorter. I found that sometimes I make the hand way too long and it just looks really weird. So yeah, and then we can add edge loop in the center. I'll usually only add one edge loop in the center, even though we have 3 joints in the hand. So if you wanted to add an extra one, the hand, again, roughly is like, for the fingers, it's halfway through is the first joint. This is the first joint. is the first half, and then the second half has the last two joints. So it will be like there to here, and then here and here. So it'll be, yeah, so 50% the first joint, and then 50% the last two joints. Okay, so I'm just gonna leave it like this, and then usually I'll just make the whole thing a little bit thinner. So I'll just grab like these two faces at the end. So again, face view, select these two, and go GZ and drag it up. And I'm gonna go vertex, drag it up as well, like this. Okay, then I can go face select, take this, rotate, like this, and then I'm also gonna rotate it a little bit like this. Okay, then I'm just gonna extrude down, and then I'm gonna right click, loop tool circle, just to make it like a proper square. And then because it's 4 vertices, it'll become square if you do it like this. Then I'm going to select this, and I'm going to rotate, and I'm going to extrude out like this. Okay, rotate, extrude, scale it, maybe scale it down a little bit, make the thumb a little bit smaller. And then let's just see, the thumb should probably line up to roughly here. Okay, I don't think the hand will dip in like this, so I'll probably bring this out, make it a bit thicker. And yeah, so I think we are good to go. So also remember that like the pinky would be smaller, so make sure to like shorten for that sort of area. And yeah, there we go. That is a good start for the hand. Okay, so now I'm going to add the front view back on and hide the arm rotate, and let's get a rough head shape. So I'm going to go Shift S, cursor toward origin to bring my cursor back to the center. Shift A, cube, and we can press Control and 1 if that wants to work. And then that adds in a subdivision surface. So I can just open and click apply, and then I'm going to side view, drag it up, and then I'm just going to scale it down so it's roughly head sized. Okay, so line up in the front and side view. Cool. Then I can go to tab edit mode and go Z wireframe, delete the left side. So I'm going to select X vertices. Then I can go add a mirror modifier. So just search mirror and turn on clipping. Cool. Then let's get the head shaped up a little bit. So I found that sometimes the circle is a little bit too circular. So I'm just going to kind of attempt to make it a little bit more square. So just kind of take these vertices, line it up a little bit closer to the back. And then you see it kind of dips like this. I'm just going to grab these vertices and bring them in. Okay. So yeah, drag it up and then drag it up here. Okay. So let's make it a bit better. So yeah, there should be fun. And then I'm going to go face select, grab the bottom over here and extrude down. Okay. Then I'm going to go front view because it's going to be really messed up. So I'm going to drag it in, and then we can kind of move these vertices around to shape up how we want the face to look. Also go wireframe, look at the whole face. So maybe bring this in a little bit. So just line up with the reference, and then same thing. So let's bring this in and then bring the whole face in. So there. And then I'll probably kind of like line that up a bit. And also the same thing from the side view, bring this down so it follows the shape a bit better. And then the jaw, obviously the jaw will be more like this. Okay, so the jaw is roughly halfway through the face. So just a good guideline for that. So again, I'm just using G, just moving all these vertices around, selecting them until I get a rough shape that follows the reference and I like the shape of. Okay. Cool. Now I'm going to go back front view and it's not looking too bad. Now let's join it up with the body. So to do that, I'm going to first select the head, then select the body, and I'm going to Control J to join them. So you need to have them joined in the same mesh to do the next step. So from here, I'm going to select these 3 faces and press I to insert. And from here, I'm just going to press B. So you see the center, it had vertices there, but now if I press B, it now sticks to the center. So extrude it in like this, and then we can just go X faces to delete. From here, I'm going to fill in this gap because currently we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 vertices, and the bottom is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So to fix this, I'm going to select this vertex and I'm going to go extrude out like this, and then I'm going to extrude to the center. Okay, if I select these 2 vertices, I can press F and then F again, and you see that fills it in. And I can side view, drag it down, and then you can kind of just like, I usually just smooth this out a little bit. So just grab these vertices and then drag it down. So yeah, there we go. Okay, and then also kind of drag these vertices in a little bit, just so they get a little bit closer to the neck. And then we have the same amount of vertices on either side. I'm going to firstly go face select to select this face and X faces. And then we can grab these vertices and these 2, press F, same thing here, F, and fill it in all the way. Then just move them around till it like lines up and looks nice, like this. Okay, cool. And then it's not really a natural like kind of curve to the neck, so be more something like this. Yep. And if you do need to, you can also just drag the whole head backwards. Also, the head might just be a little bit too like not long enough. I'm not sure, but here we go. Okay, doesn't look too bad, and it's good with the reference. Okay, so I'm not going to model the feet because we are going to have big bulky shoes anyway. So let's go on to modeling the clothing with step number 2. By the way, if you are enjoying this tutorial so far and you want to go even further into all of this and expand your whole skill set and start learning how to make better art for your games or your projects or any sort of work, then you can join the Posture Academy. It will be the first link in the description. It has all 4 of my courses. There will be more coming soon. Everything that I'm working on will be here. So if you want to learn how to like expand your toolkit and get better at this whole process, then go check the first description. All the details will be there. And yeah, let's get back to step number 2. It's also the best way to support the channel and help me keep making free tutorials like this. I wouldn't be able to do it without I wouldn't be able to make these tutorials without all the support from you guys. So yeah, back to step number 2. Okay, step number 2, we're going to work on the clothing. So let's start out with, again, the trousers. So I'm going to add maybe another edge loop, or we can just take this and kind of round it out so it kind of follows the top of the trouser. So I'm going to add an edge loop over here and just roughly get it close to the end like this. And then we can just scale it up a little bit like here. Okay, so you see that? And now we have a gap between the whole like normal body and the trousers. Maybe line it up better with the reference here. And then from here, we can kind of detach from the legs. So if you want to keep the legs, whatever, up to you, but, and you could like duplicate this whole body and then like to duplicate this, Shift D, keep it, or even take this whole leg like this and just go like Shift D and duplicate it. But for this tutorial, I'm just going to work on the base mesh and just like start scaling up and follow the reference of the trousers. Sometimes it may just be overrated to, or like unnecessary to keep all of these vertices. But yeah, so I'm going to scale up and we're going to roughly follow the reference. So here, to kind of get whatever shape you want. I kind of want it to have like a bit of an angular look here at the bottom. We may need to have an extra edge loop to do all of this, or we may use the knife tool, kind of stuff like that. And then have like a nice curve at the bottom to kind of follow and set up for where the trousers will be, like that. So you see very quickly we can change how the whole character is going to look. If it's too over exaggerated, feel free to turn it down, whatever. And again, we can change proportions as we go, so don't stress about it too much. Then we go to side view and then just start following the shape a bit better. Since we've already kind of set up the front view, I'm just going to select individual vertices or like groups of them. So just like the front and the sides, I'm just drag selecting and then just kind of follow roughly with what we're going for. So here, that looks good. And then maybe make this a bit bigger. Okay, cool. So you see there, doesn't look too bad. And it'll look even better when we have like the shoes and stuff in here. Okay, so let's go make the belt. So the easy way to do this, I'm going to select this whole edge. I'm going to go face select, alt left click. People are mowing very loudly outside. But yeah, so for the belt, I'm going to go Shift D to duplicate. And then I'm going to press P and bar selection. Okay, so what that does is essentially now we have a separate object, which is this section. So I just went Shift D on my selection, Control P, and that selects, that makes it a separate object. From here, I can go Control R, and then I'm going to line it up roughly. Let me go into wireframe first. Control R, line it up with the top. So I'm going to press E for even, and you can press F to flip it. So you see kind of it's following the same shape as the bottom, even if I drag it all the way up here. If I press F, turn it off, it kind of follows the top line of it. Okay, then I could do the same thing, Control R, and press even again, and it'll be the same as the top bit. Okay, so from here, I can go Alt, select these two faces, or Alt, Shift, select, and then I can select these two loops, X faces. Okay, and then we may have to change this whole back area. This should maybe be a little bit further up, like the trousers wouldn't dip down again, if you know what I mean. So maybe we can go, I'm actually going to delete this belt and start over. So I'm going to drag this up So let's grab this loop, drag it up a little bit. So see like this, maybe drag these down, sort of thing. Probably like this would be a bit better. Okay, so that's fine. I think that should be a bit better. And so we can try that again. So Alt select, Shift D to duplicate, P bar selection. Then I'm going to select this other object, and I'm going to go tab to get edit mode, Control R, add an edge loop, press E for even. So roughly to where the top is. I can also G twice to edge slide it to wherever I want. Control R, E for even, and drag to where I want the second half of my belt to be. Control Shift or Alt Shift left click, like this, to select the two. X faces. And then from here, we can add a modifier called the solidifier. I'm going to drag this up like this. Okay. So we can change whatever thickness we want. And I'm going to go Shift A, add a cube, or we can actually add a plane. RX90. So there, and drag it up to where the like belt buckle would be. It's roughly here. I'm going to scale up on the X, and I'm going to go select the face. So yeah, I'm just going to insert. I'm going to press B for boundary to turn it off. Okay. And actually, before I do that, I'm going to go back to object mode. And if you go to Atom, you can see the scale is kind of off. So they're not the same. So I'm going to go Control A scale. So they're all 1 on 1. Now, if we insert again, it's a more consistent loop or size around the whole size. So there, I'm just going to drag forward the GY to roughly about here. Should be good. And then we can add a solidify modifier and drag it up. Okay, cool. That's good. Okay, so from here, we can go add in the shoes. So to add this in, I can just go Shift A, add a mesh cube, and then I'm just going to add a mirror onto the object. And then I can go to front view, edit mode, scale down. And if I drag it out, you see, so it's mirroring because this is the center point. So it's, and we don't need clipping because they're not going to be joined together. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go to vertex select, go to wireframe, and drag it up so it lines up with the bottom. Okay, then I can drag it back to like the back of it and drag it forward. And maybe let's line it up with this loop before it goes up. Maybe drag this back as well. So about here. And then we can add our edge loop for this bottom section and then extrude up. There we go. Cool. And then we can drag it down so like a little bit rounded out. Then we can obviously add some extra detail over here. So I'll probably add 2 edge loops. So scale these up. So S and X. Then the side edges are going to be what we use to round it out. So maybe scale up on the X as well. So what I'll do is I'll just grab these vertices. So just select all of these like this. And then we can just go G, Y, or we can just drag it down manually like this. And that should give us a nice look. If we go to front view, you see it looks quite nice. Okay. So obviously everything looks quite square at the moment. So we may need to take these like vertices back here and scale them up on the X-axis a little bit. You see like there. Maybe also take this top and make it not super square. So we can do like these, drag these down. So just grab these vertices. Okay. And then we could also go Control R, add an edge loop, and I press again even, or E for even. And then if we want, we can go add an edge loop and then on like in between those. And then we can just go Alt S, and you see that just makes it smaller and brings it in like that. Okay. I think what will help also is if we just take from about here and drag it down. So it kind of has a little bit of a bump up, and then we can go add maybe an edge over here and drag it up. And also let's round out this whole back area. So grab all these faces and then always just grab these vertices on the side, just like this. And same thing on the other side. Cool. And we can go G, Y. And then maybe it's also a little bit too wide. So like the whole thing is square. So what we can do is I'm going to go to the bottom view. I'm going to go Z wireframe. I'm going to select the whole back like this. And then I'm going to turn on proportional editing. So this button up here. And we're going to scale on the X axis. Okay. Now you see everything is being affected, but like the top isn't scaling as much. I'm going to scroll up to affect the top less. You see here, like you can change how much it affects. And we can see we can just use this to kind of taper the whole thing in like this. Okay. Doesn't look too bad. And yeah, pretty happy with that. Now we can kind of tie these shoes or like this whole trouser bottom in a bit more. So I'm going to take this extrude scale. Let's turn our proportional editing off. I just scale down. Okay. And then maybe we can work a little bit more on the trousers to add a little bit more detail. So what we can do is just add another edge loop, or we can start adding some triangles. So if we want, we can just go like add edge loop like this. So I'm going to K, knife tool, hold shift to go to the center like this. And then we'll bring it back in here. So turn, stop holding shift to these, or like stop selecting it. Then we can like bring this out here. Okay. And then maybe we can even just use these to kind of add some extra details. So just bring these in here. If you want later, you can make these asymmetrical just by applying the modifier, the mirror modifier, and then making them asymmetrical when you are done with the other bits. Okay, so something like this is pretty good. And then just breaking it up on the front and the side view, make it look quite nice and a little bit more organic. Okay, so that looks pretty good. So let's move on to doing the upper body. So up to you if you want to like do this through a mesh or not. So I'm just going to do it through a mesh. So I'm going to select here, Control R, add edge loop, and then we can select these, G twice to drag down, G twice to drag down. Then from here, we can just go, well, let's actually add the area for here. I think we might just be able to get away with just not even adding extra geometry, just kind of slide these up. Or I think it'll probably be better to add extra loop. So I'm just going to select everything, drag it down a little bit, and we're going to go Control R, or we can just go select this, and then just going to use the knife tool to add one more edge like this, and then go up to about here. Okay, and then that should line up roughly with our reference. Then from here, we also may need to add an extra edge loop. So let's go make sure we have like a strap area. So then there, then make the neckline again with the knife tool with K, and then go around, make sure we have it finish over here. Okay, now what we can do is we can select all the faces that we just made for this in particular. So I'm going to grab everything using the C tool. So C, and then it pulls up like this, holding left click, and select everything, and then go around. You can press right click to get out of it like this. Make sure you have everything selected. Yep, like this. And you can go Shift D, duplicate, and then P, bar selection. Okay, so you see separate object now, and then we can just go add a solidifier, and then we go to drag up the thickness a little bit like this. Okay, there we go. Looks pretty decent and pretty quick to get all this done. Okay, now we can move on to adding in the hair. So the easy way to do the whole hair is just to select like part of the head and use this as like a base sculpt. So I'm just going to select like this. Okay, so from here, we can take this, and then I'm going to go Shift D to duplicate, and I'm going to press Escape to get out of that, and then P, bar selection. So I'm going to go select until I get the other object like this. I'm going to edit mode, and then we can take a look at how we can model all of this. So for this hair, we may need to kind of bring it back. So I usually kind of just make a rough scalp. So I'm just taking this G twice to slide it up. And then we can even use a knife tool to kind of just bring it and make it bigger. Like you could bring it down, obviously, like it would be like here for the ear, and then go around like there. But for this, I'm basically going to just cut it back like here, because a lot of this is just going to be extruded down. So don't worry too much about how it looks from here. So basically like that, go face select all of these faces, X and delete. Okay. And then from here, we can select these faces and then just extrude down. So actually, before we do that, let's go add a solidifier again. So drag this up, and then from here, we can take vertices, and we may need to add extra vertices or do some more cuts, but from here, we can extrude down for like the bangs. So maybe it's rotated like this. And then again, we can make it asymmetrical later, but if you want, we can just go K for the knife tool, and then just add like a cut like this. Go to face select it, and then X faces. Okay. And then we can turn this little triangle on our solidifier so we actually see the vertices. Then from here, I'll probably just add a knife tool and like cut up from here, just so we have a proper, like it's not an n-gon. And then from here, I can also drag this forward just to kind of round it out so this top area is not super flat. So yeah, we can just go here, just mess around with the shape until you're happy. So something like this might be nice just to add a nice curve to it. from here, we may need to add another triangle from there to there, and then this can be for the like bangs that come down. So I'm just going to extrude, rotate, extrude, rotate, extrude, there, extrude. I'm just like following the reference one to one, and then from here we can kind of like start scaling to change how thick it is, and then just kind of follow it from the side view as well. So yeah, let's go there, select these manually, there you go, scale. Okay, cool. So we might even be able to just slide that all the way and then get rid of it with M by distance, because it actually doesn't look too bad. Sometimes you also might want to rotate it to kind of give it a bit more thickness from the front view kind of thing. So you see like here, just rotate, same thing, rotate. I'm using rotate the Z maybe like here. Okay, see, looks pretty good. Okay, and then if you want, you can even do extra kind of things. You could extrude down just as like a little extra bit of hair. Especially since we just like added a gap. So it doesn't matter where it goes, like it could even go around the back because we are going to have the little, what's it, button kind of things. So we can go from here and we can just go Shift A, mesh cube again. And I can go Control 1, make it subdivided. And then from here, we can go Control A, and then we can take this, drag it up to the side of the head, scale down, and go side view, bring it back to about here. Okay. So rotate it maybe. That's going to line up. And then I'm going to add a mirror modifier. Select the other side. We'll select it. So mirror object. So I'm selecting the hair. So if I do here, then now it's using the hair as the pivot point for this mirror. So you see like this. Okay. And you see there's not really much detail in it. So if you want, you can add like use an knife tool to add some more like detail to any of this. So we just go around like this with the knife tool K, and then we can just like select some vertices, drag it in. You see like this, so you can quite easily add in some extra detail just to make it look a little bit nicer. Okay. Not too sure, but yeah. Just do whatever you think will end up looking nice. And then again, so any detail, like if you want to pull this all the way around, you could. So maybe drag us like here. And the same thing, you can use the knife tool, any extra detail, like we could even add like some vertical detail or something. But I think for now, it doesn't look too bad. Okay, and let's also add a little bit of some face details. So for that, I'll usually just add something very simplistic, like I'll take from this area to down like this. So just add a rough nose shape. Then you go side view. If you want, drag it back and then just drag out the nose like here. And then if you want, you can also just add maybe like, I don't know, maybe an edge loop across like this. And it needs to go somewhere. So I'm just going to add it as a like triangle into there here. And the reason for that is so we can add obviously like a bit of a dip back. And the reason for that as well is it gives us a nice like dip for the eyes. And then, yeah, we're all good. From here, I was going to knife tool across from the nose to the corner of the mouth. So we don't have another end gun like that. And press enter. And we are good to go. Just something very quick to make the face look a little bit better. Okay. Okay, so not looking too bad. Now let's go kind of optimize a little bit of stuff like this belt and the shirt, merge some stuff together and get ready to add some UVs. So the first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna select the whole shirt and I'm gonna click only rim. What that does, if I just go / to isolate this, is if I turn only rim on and off, you can see that with rim on, it has 2 layers, but only rim will not do that inside layer. It's quite useful because if you want to merge the two together, then we can kind of delete the parts underneath the shirt and merge everything together. So I'm going to go / and we can just go, we can just apply the mirror and the solidifier. So Control A on both of those. And then I'm going to add the mirror back on. So I'm just going to delete the left side, or we can just delete the left side and then shift select the body and then just go, well, before we do that, let's delete the bits underneath. So I'm just going to alt shift select again. So just, or we can use C again. So C select and just hold left click and then right click to clear it. If you select something that you don't want to select, you can use middle mouse button to deselect. So roughly like this, and then go X faces, and then we can go Alt, or just select the mesh over here and bring it back with the eyeball. Then I'm going to shift select the body and Control J. And you see, so since it's been merged together with, or joined together, then it takes on this mirror modifier. And you see the vertices are like now on top of each other, but they're not actually merged together. So it still has a gap technically. So to fix that, we can just select everything and go M and by distance. Okay, so you see you removed 17 vertices. So if you want, you can go through and check, but mostly that should be found. Like all of these have been merged together. Okay, so same thing we can do with the belt. So I'm just going to go Control R. And this one might be a little bit different, but I think we use even, so it should line up. But if it doesn't, I'm just going to drag these up here. I'm just going to drag it down here, and I'll show you how to kind of line these up. So again, object mode, select this mesh, and we can go only rim on the belt. Then from here, we can go take this and go change this to vertex. Okay, so what that does is now we can snap to the individual vertices of this belt. So I'm just going to press G and I can hold control. You see it snaps like this. So it has like a little bit of a square. We need to go to wireframe and find the exact vertice like this. And then just go around and line up all of these vertices so they're ready to be merged. Okay, so all good. And let's get the last one over here. And then I can go to face select and then alt left click and we can select an X faces that whole edge. Then we can just go apply mirror, apply solidify, and then I can go again, delete the left side. So actually the reason I'm doing applying both is if I apply just as a solidify, it works like from the top to the bottom. So if we apply just a solidify, it'll be the same thing as if I didn't have that left side. So you see it has this gap in the center. So we need to apply the mirror and then apply the solidify, undo it a couple too many times. And then you see that now it is proper and we can delete the left side, X, so yeah, X phases. And then select both of these, Control J, and then M by distance. See, remove 10 vertices, and now most of the mesh is fine. We don't have to merge everything. For this, I might just like M at center just to kind of collapse it down to one mesh. And yeah, so the hair can stay a separate mesh like this. And then the whole body is mainly joined other than this belt buckle, which is completely fine. So now we can go on to step number 3, which is doing the UV unwrapping. Okay, so UVs, essentially what they are is we need to take our mesh, cut it up, and we can lay it flat for us to go and be able to paint textures onto our mesh. So what we can do, I'm just going to delete this circle because we don't need this. And I'm going to go to my top left of my screen, drag out. So you see, so now I can split it like this. I'm going to split it vertically. This left one, I'm going to click over in the top left, go to UV editor. Okay, and then the right one can stay the same. I actually just press T to get rid of the side view. And yeah. So now we need to set up a special material to kind of help us lay out everything while we are doing this UV stuff. So I'm going to select this mesh and I'm going to go to the material tab and I'm going to click new. Okay, and then now this has a material. I'm on 5.2 beta. I'm also on Windows, but yeah, I don't know. I've been having a couple bugs like this. I click new. To be fair, as I said, beta software. Who knows? But I wanted to kind of try future-proof it so there's nothing different from a version that you are using. Okay, so from here, I can click on this little yellow dot next to base color, and I can go click on image texture. Okay, so here I can click new, and then depending on the resolution we want to go, if we're doing something like more stylized, we can even do something like 512, something like a PS2 kind of look. And from here, I'm going to, so 512, you can just drag down, change it, you can name it. So you can like character texture. Cool. From here, I'm going to change generator type to color grid, and I can click new image. Okay, so if you want to see this image, we can go open here and open the character texture. From here, we can just go into our viewport and go S or Z and material preview. Or if you want to see it within your like solid shaded, I'll show you once Eevee is loaded. So you can see, obviously, it's working inside of Material Preview, but you can also see it inside of the solid view just by changing. If you scroll over here at the top, you can scroll across to the right, and then we can go to texture. And you see now it shows you the texture of everything. Now we want to select all the other meshes, so the shoes, the belt, the hair, and then select the base mesh, and we can go Control L and link materials. Okay, so now everything has the same material. And from here, we can select everything and then go tabs, go edit mode, select everything and go U. You could use Smart UV Project. Essentially, that will try to lay everything flat. And then if we go to Material Preview, we can see how everything looks. I don't know what, so you see, like, this is where it'd be better to apply the scale of everything. So essentially, if I select this sphere, go Alt S, this is the size the Blender thinks it is because we haven't applied the scale. So I'm going to select everything, and then I'm going to go Control A, Scale. And if I do the Smart UV Project again and click Unwrap, you can see now these take up a lot less space if I just go to edit mode on these separately. And now the body takes up a lot more. But if you notice, like even with this, look how scattered over everything is. So you could work in this way, but it's better to do your UVs manually. So let's go through that process. So the first thing we'll do is kind of start separating out sections. So generally, like if you have the shirt like this, I can just go Alt left click on this loop here, Alt Shift left click on this bottom loop, and like Alt Shift left click on this loop around the neck. And then to marker seam, you could go like U and mark seam. You can just go Control E, mark seam. You could also right click, add to quick favorites, and then mark seam will be on your quick favorites like this. So just pressing Q for quick favorites. Okay, so you just repeat this. So Alt left click. So here I'm going to, like, this is the edge of the trousers, and then this is like the edge of the belt. So I'll generally just section off sections that are actually different materials. So yeah, mark seam. And then we can go select everything with A, U, unwrap. Okay, now it's quite difficult to tell what is good and what is bad. Obviously, this grid helps a lot because you can see here like the trousers are really bad because they were super stretched. But it's also a way to visually show it over here on the left. So to do that, I can just scroll across. So I find this little like 2 circles, open it, UV stretch, turn on angle, and then you can see the darker the blue is, the flatter it is, or the more like the less stretched it is. Okay. So like here, this is the trousers. Oh, actually, that's the arms. You see like the arms super messed up. I don't know. You can also, this should be the trousers. Yeah. So let me kind of break down. Essentially, it's the same as like papercraft, where you take a flat image, you cut it up, and you can like push it together. Same thing here, just the opposite. And essentially, you just need to kind of think about how you would have to cut up a shape to lay it flat. So like for these trousers, especially for the bottom, like just if we added an edge loop like this around the center or the bottom, or we could even go like, if I just go / to isolate this, I could just go select all of these edges. If I do that, Control E, mark seam. Now the bottom will kind of cut out like this. And then if we had a cylinder like this and wanted to lay it flat, what we'd do, we'd cut down the side, and then that could lay out like a flat sheet of paper. So to do that, I'm just going to go select the center, and then I can go to here and hold Control and select, and it will select the shortest path between the two. And I can go Control E, mark seam. And if I go again, select everything, you unwrap, you can see this is now the trousers. And you see, again, it's laid out quite flat. And you can see most of it is pretty blue. Any sections like this, you can actually go take a look and see how bad the stretching is. Honestly, I'm not even too fussed. It doesn't look that bad. So you can kind of just evaluate how everything's going to look while we're working like this. Okay, so similar thing for the arm. What I'd usually do is separate it off at the wrist. So I'll select this, mark seam, and then I can go to the top of the arm and then go to the wrist like this, hold Control. You see, so I have a whole section down the side, Control E, mark seam, select everything, you unwrap, and then I think this is the arm. And you see here, now everything is pretty square and pretty like a lot less stretched. And then also here, you can also like take it later, we'll like line everything up, but usually you kind of want to have it roughly straight so that the pixels line up, especially if you're doing something more stylized like we are today. This is probably the hand, I think. Yeah. So if you want to do the hand quickly, because I think everything else is generally not that bad. So yeah, we can look at the hand. I'm going to go select the thumb. Usually I'll kind of section off the thumb by itself like this. Mark seam, and then similar process. We're just going to add an edge down the side. And then if I do that, you can see it's better, but this end is still like stretched. So we can just add like two edges like this. So there, Control E, mark seam. And then if we go take a look where it's gone, you see it's a lot better. And then maybe one more because this edge is still quite stretched. So Control E, mark seam. And then wherever it's gone, you can see it's quite a lot better now. So you see, this is how it can help you a lot. So even if the head, if you wanted to, you could go like split off these sections over here. You can do anything like that. You can split off the jaw. Sometimes I'll split off the entire face like this. The reason just being that if I do it like this is the section that's actually going to need more detail, whereas the rest of the head is not going to need as much. Like the back of the head over here is not going to need much detail. So if I mark a seam like this and then unwrap it like this, oh, why you messed up? Okay, there we go. So then I have the face separate. Like I could scale this up to add extra extra pixels to it. And then like the back of the head and the neck, whatever, could be scaled down so it has less pixels. So yeah, kind of up to you what you want to do. For now, I'll just leave it like this. It's not too bad. Control E, clear seam to get rid of it. Okay, and then for the rest of the hand, we can do, again, very similar. I'll essentially just go maybe like the back of the hand, add an edge down the side, and then mark seam. And then if we take a look, once you've unwrapped, see where is the bad area. So it's all here at the top. So maybe we can add another edge loop. So we add one more there, and then we unwrap again. You can see, yeah, looks a lot better. And then maybe we can just add one on. If we go to edge select like this, select this edge, maybe even the center, but we've marked those two seams. You can see it lays a lot more flat. And if you care, you can go add another edge loop down the center like that, and then unwrap. Why do you keep bugging out? I don't know. I think it might just be this beta 5.2, but yeah, there we go. And I think this is pretty decent so far. Yeah. So from here, we can take a look at the rest of the items. So I'm going to go / to bring everything back, and then we can take a look at the shoes. So we can go / if we unwrap like angle base, you just unwrap. There's no actual seams, and it's just a square. Well, technically, so there's nothing that it can actually do. So to start out, I'll probably just like select these edges. I'm going to select the top, Control to pick shortest path, add an edge loop. I'll usually section off the whole like sole of the shoe just because it usually I can scale it all the way down and it will be like fine because you're not going to see the bottom of the shoe that much. Overall, it's not even that bad. So we can just take a look here, add an edge loop over here, or a cut. You can see that gets us pretty far. And then when it's big like this, it's a lot more difficult to see the stretching, which is not even too bad. You can see like there. So you may need to section off some bits depending on what points are actually be interesting. So you could do maybe something like this, and you see that helps a lot. And if we look here, and also make sure that this is rotated correctly, you can kind of see how much everything's going to stretch. Honestly, I'm not too bothered, and it may even help if you section off this little cut over here. So unwrap. And then you'll see that like it may help a lot with these. Yeah, I think it's fine. You might need to, like you could probably even remove a couple of these edges if we're going to do a loop all the way around. But it's kind of just good to section off some bits just to make sure that it's all going to look good. Yeah. Okay, / go back to object mode. And then we can take a look at the hair. This should actually be pretty easy because we haven't, because we essentially, since we're working with the solidifier, there's no actually any extra geometry. It's just a flat plane essentially. Might just section off this whole bit. I'm also just going to check. Yeah, everything's been applied. I'm just going to section off this whole like braid section. So I'm going to go unwrap, and yeah, I think that should be fine. These two are overlapping, so you may need to cut this off as well. So I'm just going to cut. Yeah, I don't know why. Like, if I 1, 2, 3 over here, just like between these three, but over here on the UV unwrapping, it doesn't. So just edge select, Control E, mark seam, and now those two are both separate. And then for these, depending on how you work on them, we can take a look. You could even do like a sphere projection, I think. That looks awful. Let's just kind of like, essentially, this is close to a cube. So if we take a cube and the way it's unwrapped is we kind of go like this. So we add two U shapes and we add a seam here, then it U unwrap. So this is how you get to the here, because it's essentially, I don't know how to explain it properly, but there's a U and then there. So if we don't have this edge over here, clear seam, then it's not, you can see it's not like properly unwrapping, because we need to have something to cut it from being a continuous loop around. So yeah. So essentially we're going to do the same thing where we have like the two U shapes and then the cuts across. So I'm going to delete this, and then so same things. You see this is going to be like, these are going to be the U shape. So like that. And then from here, we just need to have one go across, mark seam, and you see it lays pretty flat like that. Cool, /, and I think that should be everything other than this bit, which we can literally just U unwrap and it will be fine. So let's select all the meshes. So here, and then I'm just going to select everything, U unwrap, and there we go. So you can go through and manually position all of this stuff to make it lay a bit better. You can also, like, you see these are all like mirrored in terms of, because we have a mirror modifier, they are mirrored when you're UVs. So you can apply your UVs and then do them. But yeah, so I'm just going to go kind of scale some stuff around. You can press L to select whole like groups of these like this. I can make this a bit bigger, scale up. Take this arm, like rotate it all the way around, make sure it's a bit straight, and get it quite close to the edge over here. This is one of the things that I'm pretty bad at, is the whole like packing, what it's called, of UVs doing this process. I think I end up wasting a lot of UV space. So yeah, don't take much advice from me on this subject. There are probably other people that have made a lot better videos, but who cares? There is also the built-in UV packer. So if I go UV pack islands, I'm going to turn off rotate, and then we can go pack. So I don't know if it's that much better. So I'm going to go pack islands, moves turn rotate on, and add a tiny bit of a margin. Pack. So UV pack islands. That may just give you a better option. I think it's not too bad. We can also take a look. There's a lot of free like add-ons to help. I think the one I usually prefer is UniV, so UNRV, but it doesn't work in the beta, so I'm going to just use this one for now. Let's try if it has a different pack. Does it have a different pack? Okay, it doesn't even have a better one, but yeah. Okay, I'm really don't care too much. Just kind of, if you want to go through and pack everything properly, you can, but I don't care that much. So let's continue and go on to step number 4, which is texturing. So obviously I talked about it earlier, but if you want to go more depth on texturing and stuff, then make sure to go check out the Potter Academy link down below. So basics of texturing. We can go get rid of this left side if you want. You can keep it as a like image editor and change it to paint, but I usually prefer to just paint like directly into the viewport. So for this, I'm going to hide my reference images. Also kind of like to sometimes to remove like the floor and the XY, just so I can kind of just work directly on my mesh. From here, I can go select any mesh I want to texture paint on, Control Tab, and go to texture paint. Now I'm going to change over here to this little settings thing, and then this can allow me to paint directly onto the model. Now, the best way to actually paint textures for stuff like this is to go to edit mode, and then if you go to face select, you can actually press L, and it will select any section that is sectioned off with the UVs if you are in face select. So like here, I can select the whole trousers, go to Control Tab to texture paint, and then I can pick the color. And if I go click on this little button, it will filter out, so I can only paint on this section, or we can use the paint bucket to fill in this whole section. So for this, I'm just going to make it like a denim kind of thing. I'm going to try to get like quite vibrant colors. So maybe something like this. And then, so we're going to use the color palette throughout this whole thing to actually save these colors. I'm supposed to be on the paint bucket, so I'm just going to add this and click plus. Going to go to the paint bucket. Cool, it did share the color. So click on here. And if you want, you can also go to the shading and change it to flat. And that will just show you the exact color that you're painting. Sometimes I find that it's a little bit too flat and you don't actually know where the details are. So you may want to go here and turn on wireframe and then maybe drag the opacity down a little bit like this. You can actually see the vertices while you're painting. So let's maybe make it a little bit darker. So something like this. I think we've had before, like there. And I think you can just drag this color and drop it onto the little block that we have. Okay, so there, and then we can go like maybe a red for the top, texture paint. I'm gonna go over here to like a red, drag it up. Let me get it quite a good, like balanced. I think that should be fine for the start. Again, do whatever you want with your colors and whatever. Then we can go select the skin to make sure to grab all the different sections and the face like this, Control Tab, texture paint. And then we can just go roughly pick out, that's like a very yellow, sick kind of color. So I usually like, if you push it too far towards the green, then it becomes a bit like a sickly color. So if we go to hue saturation value, just push it to the left where it's more red. Like you want to have more red because essentially skin is just blood underneath and then skin on top that's quite like see-through or whatever color that's like tinting it. So your skin is just red with a little bit of stuff on top of it. So sometimes it's a lot better. So that might be a little bit too much. So you can also change the saturation amount. So like that. And obviously the value for however bright and dark. But I don't know how I'm getting out of the fill brush. But yeah, so I kind of prefer to have a little bit more of a pink to it, just to make sure it doesn't look too like that your character is sick. Yeah, so you don't want too much green in your skin tones. So yeah, that should be good. And then make sure to save it to the color palette. And then we can do the belt. So probably do like a black for this. So we can drag it all the way down, add it to the color palette. This, we can probably do like a silver for texture paint. We can do like a gray here. It could even tint it slightly, maybe just like a tiny bit of a blue to it. Okay, and then the shoes. We could even use the same red color. So I'm gonna save that gray before I use it. Use the red, and then we can go like select this whole bottom section like this, and then use that to make it like white. Okay, we can paint it filter like this, and paint white fill bucket like that. Okay, and then hair. Let's give it some black hair. Okay, you see that doesn't look too bad as a start. And yeah, so I think the colors are quite nice. They stand out quite a lot. So we can get on to properly painting these textures now that we've blocked in the base colors. Okay, so I have a pretty set standard way of texture painting everything when I work like this. So we can again work in the same like sectioned off way that we've been working with the dropping in paint. So I'm going to go texture paint, and then usually, so if I grab, like we can do the skin, then we filter in just for the skin over here. Obviously, we can change it back to a paintbrush, but then I'll usually grab a shadow color and a highlight color. So for this, I'd go like, you can even do it in here. I'd usually make it like maybe a little bit more saturated, maybe a little bit darker, and then maybe shift the hue slightly. So like this. Probably needs to be a little bit more darker. So, but here, maybe a bit more saturated. Okay, now obviously test it. So you see like that. You don't make it just a, so if I just save this, I'm going to add it, and you can also shift it so it lines up with it. If I took this and just made it darker, you'll see that just doesn't look, well, she's get a relatively similar. You see how it just like becomes more brown kind of thing, it's not actually shifting more towards a red. And again, as I said, the skin is just something on top of red. So if it becomes darker, then make it more saturated. And then for the highlight, we can do the same thing. So maybe value, drag it up a little bit more, and then drag the saturation down, and then make the hue maybe a little bit more towards the like left up there. If you paint that, then that's fine for the highlight. And when we're painting, we're going to change how strong our brush is. So we're not painting just the color directly, But yeah, so I'm going to add that in and then just shift it over. So now we have these three. So you could also just do this in a batch, as in terms of like, if I go Alt A and then select the shirt, then we could go texture paint, grab the red, and then we can grab our shadow. So let's go, I don't even know if we need to shift it too much on the hue. I think skin is more important to do this, but you can do the same thing. So maybe a little more saturated, a little bit less value. Or we could do the opposite where, well, you just, yeah, let's do it like this and then paint on, like that's good. So you see how this gives us a lot better colors if we just changed the value when adding highlights and shadows. So yeah, a little bit less saturation, a little more value, and then maybe shift it a little bit like this. Paint it on, maybe a little bit more, less saturation. And then we can go remove this one and shift this over to the left. So you see, like we can do, that's our highlight, that's our base color, and then this is our shadow. If we need to make it more strong, like we could even make it more, like even further, and maybe a little bit higher. Depends on what you need, but you can change the strength. You can even add 4 colors, doesn't matter. Just go through your range and pick any color that you need. The same thing, L for the trousers, and then shadow. So value darker, saturation up a little bit, and then shift it over. That should be good. Add it, shift it over. And then I'll highlight, so value up, saturation down, and hue shifted maybe to the left, like that. Okay, add it in. And there we go, cool. So we quickly adding quite nice colors. So yeah, let's go back to the skin. You can also use L inside of object mode itself, or like in the texture paint, I mean. So you can see like we can actually select these sections and work on them separately. I'm just going to cover up this section over here, just because if we work directly from the front view, then if anything goes over the side, like if I just paint on a shadow like this, then you'll see it'll be a hard cutoff over here, and it's quite difficult, especially if you have a more softer brush to kind of blend between them. So for the texture painting process, what we can do is we have a couple different brushes over here on the bottom. So you can usually go pick maybe like a bit more of a softer brush. So you can see something more like this. And then I'll usually go just start painting, but you can also add a little bit of a randomized color. So you see if we just paint, you can just go here and like maybe add a tiny bit of, if I just drag it up even further to exaggerate it a little bit, but you can see how just shifting the hue, well, I'll probably be more likely to use like maybe a little bit more saturation shift and a bit more of a value shift like this. So you see like this, where it can just kind of add a little bit more variation while you're painting like this. Okay. So I'm going to use Shift F to bring my strength down, and then I can just paint a little bit of a shadow. If I'm painting something like this, I'm just going to be adding, like my first process will be adding the shadows that would be naturally occurring. So like there underneath the shirt bit, like underneath the arm. So like I'd usually add kind of the whole arm. Now don't worry if you go too dark or anything, because we can firstly smooth it out. I mean, even there, like that looks quite nice. Any muscles, so like the chest obviously would be here, like depending on how jacked the person is. So you could even add that sort of thing, like the chest, any folds in the skin, even like the shoulder. So we just go like this, maybe make it a little bit less strong. Remember, we can smooth out, we can cover up with the base color, but like here, so we can just add a little bit over there. Maybe if they have some like strong lats, I don't know. If you want for the, the elbow, if they have any muscle definition, you can just kind of start adding this in. And then you see, so this is what I meant, where like, again, you hit the edge, so you may just have to like smooth it out a little bit, just hold shift and that smooths, like this. And then you can also go back in just with the base color. So if I just go here and paint on top, then I can just kind of smooth it out like that. And then I'm just using F to bring my brush size up a little bit, and then smoothing out a bit. So it's actually the blur brush, and I think you can change the, actually it doesn't even change the strength that much. but it does have somehow just got this stabilized stroke. If you're painting and you see this little red line behind your brush, that means you have stabilized stroke on. So go stroke, stabilize, and turn that off. Okay, so just smoothing stuff out or with it, because I don't know if my shift is even working at all. It doesn't feel to be doing much. So you might just have to use the blur brush itself. Okay, so paint here. This is where it's just good to use this masking thing, because now like we can work. Doing a shadow like this would be really difficult to do when if you didn't have these like masked off, but because you do, you can even just go like paint right up to that line and not have to worry about getting it onto the separate color. Okay. So any details that you want to add, obviously like you'd have a belly button somewhere, just paint that in. If you like, sometimes you would have like a bit of a like ab definition. You can just drag your strength all the way down like this. Even if you want to add like the center line, I don't know. If you want to add, make your character super muscular. So there, and then just smooth it out. So like, it's just kind of a thing of just add it in and then smooth it way out, and then just has that tiny bit. I don't know if I like that horizontal line. It doesn't look very good, in my opinion. So we just kind of cover that up. And then if we are adding like shadows to kind of obviously like add to the edge, then we could also add a highlight to the top of it. So maybe make the brush a bit bigger, strength a little bit lower. So you can see how like I'm going very soft with these. Like you can just use these to kind of bump something up a little bit. Even if you want like the bit of a exaggeration here. Anything just to kind of add more shadings and stuff. Same thing like the shoulder. Like this would be bumping up. So then you could kind of like detail the shoulder like this. Again, we can smooth it out. Same thing for the arm. Like the top could be a little bit brighter. If you want to like define any muscle kind of thing, because like it's quite useful to know how the muscles would look if you're going to be doing stuff like this. Like you may have a bit of a cut in like there, because obviously when your arm bends, you'll have a little bit of a kind of indentation here. And then you may have a bit of a muscle here. And then again, smooth it out. So here, just blur everything. And then again, if anything is too strong, then just come in with the base color and then just paint on top of it. Yeah. So I think I probably chose a little bit too strong of colors. So like my strength is way down when I'm painting on all of these. So yeah. But you see how we can very quickly get in some pretty simple detail that looks pretty nice just with some simple shading and just using our three colors. So let's take a look at the trousers. So Control Tab, Texture Paint. Go over here. So I'm using L to select these two sections. Let's go back to normal paintbrush. And then we kind of start with the same sort of thing. So obviously, like shadow would be in the corner where the legs join up. So like this. Maybe down the center of the legs a little bit. So like here. I'm just going to go forward slash and then add to the bottom like this. Paint it in. Cool. And then you see how again having like cutting like this, so we can just like go back to the base color and also the blur brush and kind of smooth stuff out a bit. And obviously we have these like what's it called? Bumps or folds or whatever. So then we can also just go fill in some of those. So like this would be a little bit shadow like this. We just paint this in. Do any other cuts or like this would be kind of painted in a little bit. Maybe just add a little bit of a fold over here. And obviously you can just paint in general folds into the fabric. So we can just go anything we want. Like obviously there'd be like a bit of a crease behind the leg. So we can do like this sort of thing. And then when stuff gets creased, then it probably would also have a little bit of a highlight. So just paint sort of thing like this. And also maybe like obviously like this would be a bit higher. So then you can add a bit of a highlight to the back of the leg. Or same thing like when it gets stretched. So you could add a bit of a lighter patch to the knee sort of thing. Anything that's going to bend more. So like we can also add some more like wrinkles over here. So just do sort of thing like this. It's very good to have reference in this sort of situation. but I'm just kind of going off vibes and whatever I think looks good. There's something like this. Okay. Same thing. Let's add some shadow underneath the belt. So going around. Cool. Just paint in the shadows. Same thing. So add a bit of a highlight in anything that is kind of open. So you can add a little bit of a highlight to the leg. Remember that like we can just kind of paint this whole thing like there is not going to be any lighting. So if it looks good when we are not even in a shaded view, because we're just in a solid flat shaded look, if it looks good here and it looks 3D in this view, then we've kind of done our job. Like you can see how just looking at this, it already looks like there is some sort of lighting, just because we've kind of set everything up with a shadow already. Okay. I think these look quite nice, these little folds. Just go give it a highlight, and then don't make sure to not forget here. So I might just add a slight shadow at like the edge. So you see just where it like connects with the skin, just add a little bit of a shadow. Going all the way around. Cool. And then remember to add a highlight like this. Go there. Just painting all the way around. Get a nice highlight on the top. And again, if we need to, we can also smooth it out a bit. Okay, looks quite cool. But you see how just by going through it like this, we can very quickly build up a good look to everything. Remember to add all those extra highlights and stuff to anything that we shade it, and we add the highlights on top. So like here, sometimes it might be a bit difficult to work in the center. So we can also just turn the mirror modifier off, just so we can work on this like inside leg. But if you have applied your mirror modifier, so you actually don't have everything symmetrical, then you can do that. Cool. Obviously, there's going to be like we can add a lot more to this section. Like just add some kind of like fake. Like it doesn't have to be all just the mesh. Like you just do like a little thing like this. Whatever. Again, it's better to have some reference so you actually know what stuff would look like. So go like this, etc. Just, I think it's quite a nice whole process to kind of just paint like this, where you can just do whatever you want, have fun. It's quite a nice process. Cool. So get some more highlights. If you need to smooth anything out, you can. Sometimes we'll just bring it all the way down, make your brush quite big, and then just start filling in, because you don't want to just have a big block of blue or of one shade. So we can just kind of, even if you just paint and then come in with another, like the base color, so we just do a little bit of a highlight and come with the base color just to get, it's not perfectly the base color, you know what I mean? But it's not perfectly the highlight. To just get some sort of there. And also, I'm kind of just blending just by painting in the base color. So, because I have the shadow, I have a shadow, have highlight. If I just paint the base color in the middle, it's blending between them kind of thing. Especially it just has such a low strength. And you can also use it to kind of try to cover up any sort of things like this where it's accidentally painted wrong. Okay, or just blend it out like this. Okay, so yeah. That looks pretty cool. And then we can bring the mirror modifier back. Okay, cool. Let's go on to doing the shirt. So again, L to select the shirt, go texture paint, and then I'm just going to cover up the random color we painted on. So go back and grab the base color like this, then select it properly, paint it on. So then select it properly. There we go. Shift F, bring our strength all the way up, and there we go. So again, first start with the shadow. So I'm going to go around the bottom like this, and then just paint, drag all my strength all the way down, maybe make the brush a little bit bigger, and then just start painting in like this. Okay. So there we go. Looks pretty good. And same thing, we can maybe add like a little bit of a shadow underneath over here. Cool. And you can also just go bring the reference back just to have it underneath, just to kind of line up any details. So yeah, let's just start shading. The same process, anything that would be underneath. Obviously, if you want to have a proper, you know what I mean, band at the bottom, like there, then you can just paint that in. Just bring your brush strength up. So I'm just going to paint it all the way around. So once you use it like this, and then from here, I'm going to bring back our highlight, or bring our highlight in, and then just paint it like this along the top. Maybe bring our strength down, like there, and then paint along. Okay. And then maybe not enough of the base color in here. Bring our strength all the way down, and then kind of blend between them just by painting along. See, because like the shadow was just kind of creeping up a little bit too hard. So up to like here. Cool. And then maybe grab the shadow color, drag the strength down, and start kind of blending up a little bit. Okay. That looks pretty good. Yeah. Just remember that if you need any like hard lines, any extra details, just remember to bring your brush strength up, because you need to actually properly paint the texture in. Okay. And again, any highlight. So just do like here. Remember, if any there are like any sort of cloth wrinkles or whatever, so you could paint those in just by doing like a shadow, and then add like a highlight in kind of thing like this. So any sort of clothes, like even just in general, just kind of have like any sort of thing, even if it spawned from the. And obviously, this is where having a proper, like not mirrored, would be better, because like anything you add is going to be mirrored properly. So like if you add like a little bit of a cloth going up from here, click it properly. So you can just add a little bit of a thing like there. Do over here, and again we can just go blur it out. I'll probably add a bit of a highlight on this section. Cool. Go grab my middle color again. I think my strength's a little bit too hard, so blur everything out. Or yeah, there. It's good. I don't really add any detail in my concept, but any sort of like, let's take a look. We can probably do a similar shadow around these corners. So we just go paint it in. Just any contact with the skin, just paint it in over here. So there. Cool. Looks good. And then blur it. And then even like here, I'll probably just go add a bit of a highlight, because like the top. And again, so if we're adding shading, so like this would be the back, bring our strength down. I don't want the proper highlight. I want this, the second one. So kind of highlight this upper back area, and then along the strap going over. And this could also have some like little wrinkles kind of thing. Like if we go from here, then add a very slight, bring our strength all the way down, kind of thing like this. You know, like there, and then just, it's a very light, and then we can blend it out. So again, it's just that indentation, that very slight suggestion of it. So once you smooth it out, there we go. Cool. You could also add any impression of like muscle, or obviously like you would have a bit of a, it's like a little bit of a dip in your back kind of thing. So it'd be like there. You also have like your shoulder blades, depending on your posture and whatever, your shoulder blades might show up. So we can kind of like go add that sort of thing in. So there, blend this in. Then obviously, again, just that little slight in, like slight look of it being there. Especially, I think I probably went a bit too hard on that back indentation. But you see, if we turn off our overlays as well, Probably a little bit too strong again. So let's just smooth it out. Yeah, not too bad. Or we can just come in with the base color and then just kind of smooth it out a little bit. See, that sort of thing. Cool. Yeah, not doing too bad. Don't make sure to not smooth everything too much. Like you don't just kind of demolish your entire drawing. But sometimes what I'll do is I'll shade it and it's like smooth it, and then I'll kind of come back in. It's like, yeah, if I smooth this out, then I may just come back in even with like a harder brush and then get the shadow back in and then just paint that back like this sort of thing. So it's quite nice to sometimes just get your shading in and then do the, well, get your shading in and then smooth it and then get any extra like hard details back in. I think that removed the highlight from the band. Let's get that back. Okay, cool. One thing that's going to be quite difficult is the face, but we'll get through it. Okay, so here is just a quick reminder to firstly save your file, but also save your images because I just lost everything that I got up to here, like image wise. So I need to basically go repaint everything and I'll pick back up when I've completed the everything that we basically went over, and then we can pick up with the face, hair, and the shoes. If you need to save, just image, save as, or save whatever. Make sure to actually save it because I left for a little bit, went downstairs, had some lunch, and by the time I came back, it just disappeared. So great software, but whatever. Okay, cool. So I have gotten roughly back to the point that we were before everything crashed. So fun times. Make sure to actually save your files, especially if you're going to go for a break for an hour or whatever. But yeah, or screen record the entire time. Usually, actually, what I do sometimes when I'm working on stuff like this is essentially I go when I'm recording. So unfortunately, the better thing is to have it up and I'm recording, and then I can like screenshot it and chuck it back in and vaguely get it back. It's not that good quality, so yeah, it literally took me like 10 minutes to do. So it's not as good as before, but it is something. So yeah, let's talk about doing the face now. So first thing we do is press L, select the whole face, and then we can get our brushes up and let's get so we can see the skin tones, and maybe it's forward slash. Or I guess we can just work like this for now, so we know where to add shadows. So obviously, first thing I'm going to do, shadow underneath the jaw, and we can define the jaw better if we want, like this. I'm using forward slash to hard stuff, and then we can also see where the hair is and like kind of paint underneath the hair. So just like there, see, they're just adding a bit of a shadow like this. Okay, cool. If you want, you can add some like little like slight muscle kind of thing for the neck. Also, we can do like a bit of a very rough for the collarbone, like this sort of thing. Just a very rough kind of look. Tiny bit of highlights, but yeah, so a bit more shadow. So obviously underneath the eyes would have a shadow like this. Underneath the nose would have a shadow like this. Okay. And then obviously the cheeks. So depending on like if you want to have like a how much makeup or whatever, but just have a start of the shadow on the cheeks like this. And you see already has quite a lot of a 3D look to it. Probably also have a tiny bit on the nose kind of thing. A little bit there, kind of on the side just to accentuate it a bit. Then we can bring our highlight color in. So add a little bit to the top of the nose, add a little bit to the top of the eyebrows, like this sort of thing. Might also just come back in and kind of make the top of the nose a bit wider, this sort of thing. Cool. Also highlight on the cheeks, so like this. Maybe a little bit over here. Okay. Now we can smooth out, especially, I might even just come over like the base color, but you see if we just smooth out this whole area here, I wouldn't smooth the nose out as much just because like that's supposed to be more of a harsh area. Okay. I'll smooth out this quite a bit because it doesn't look great. I don't. Oh wait, actually, I'm not even smoothing. I'm just grabbing the base color and painting it over. So there, that's an actual smoothing. Cool. This is turning a bit muddy, so it'll probably come in later with some proper colors. But yeah. Okay. So obviously some of the most difficult bits, because I mean, they're just some simple shadows and we already have a pretty good looking base for the face. The most difficult bit is obviously going to be painting the whole like R's and all that kind of stuff. So I'm going to get a white color. So I'm just going to go one, grab a pure white, and I'm going to grab a harder brush like this, and then drag up my strength quite a bit. Cool. So we can start with actually getting the face in. Might be good to pull up a reference on a second monitor, as usual. I guess it's rough and fine, close enough. Okay, so let's just start with the general shape of the R's. Obviously, it helps that it's going to be perfectly symmetrical. But yeah, so just paint it in, and then whatever shape you're happy with. Then I'm going to go grab a black kind of thing, and then, or we can actually just go with the shadow color, and then I'm just going to paint over the top of the R like this. You see? Okay, maybe same thing at the bottom, just a tiny bit. You can also maybe add a dark, it'll make it very, very slight. Add a tiny bit of a shadow like this. Don't do too much or like it makes it look quite tired. Cool. Okay, and then if you want to add more of like a mascara look, you can obviously go grab like a black and paint on top of this. So like this kind of thing, painting it in. Also, if you want, we can also go to material tab and change this to closest, and then you'll see the actual pixel type you're painting. And then if you want, you can obviously change it back and forth or change the interpolation. Because one is also like, I think it's cubic. Maybe not. I thought cubic looked better than that, but I'll. But yeah, so something like that. And then obviously we can paint in the R. So I'm going to go closest again, just so I can see the pixels I'm working with. So the R would probably come to like here. So I'd want it at least touching the top, maybe touching the bottom of the R. So like this sort of thing. I'm going to drag my strength all the way up. It's also here where then you can be a bit more intentional with how many pixels we use for everything, like this. Okay, and then I might also like kind of want the R to go one up kind of thing, so like this. Then kind of here, and maybe even make it thicker at this point. So like this, and then yeah. And then make sure that we get a white back in here. I probably want to bring that down a tiny bit, this sort of thing. And then maybe the shadow a little bit more accentuated over there. Okay, so you see how just making it pixelated, you have a lot more control because you can actually see what you're painting directly. Sometimes it's nice to kind of darken this up, maybe give it like a slight tint to it, and then you can use this as like a shadow almost to drag the strength down. There's a little bit of a shadow. And then if we go back to material, we can change it to linear and then see how it would look. Okay, not too bad. And then obviously you can experiment a little bit with the size of the pupil, so you can make it bigger, like this sort of thing. And then obviously it'll be better to have a highlight, make it strong brush. And then only the other thing is like, because it's symmetrical, you might want to see like mess around with, I think that's actually a good position. Mess around with where you put the highlight, because firstly the highlight does bring the art to life, but you also need to make sure you have it in a good spot. I'm also going to change my FOV or my focal length up to 80. So N for the side panel, view, and then the focal length. Just when you're moving around, it looks better. Okay. And then the mouth. So we can maybe even reuse. No, that's way too, that's not a good pink. I don't know what pink would fit. Maybe grab some better reference. Okay, so I think maybe it needs to be a bit darker. That might help. Like that. Tiny bit more pink. That might be a shadow color, maybe for like the top of the lip. Do it like this. Might not look very good at the start, but just mess around with it. Okay, so we do that. Just save this, and then I'm going to bring it up a bit, and then we'll do the same thing. So value, we just went up. Saturation, we can bring down, and then hue, shift it a tiny bit. So we do it like this. A little bit brighter. And you can also do it on the top line. So we just do it like this. It's not looking good at all. Okay, cool. Let's see how we can get this actually look good. Save both of these. Probably to do with the shape as well. So I think if we keep it wider at the bottom and then kind of bring it up a bit faster, like there. Let's just grab the skin tone, get the middle skin tone, like this, and then might help if it's maybe not as wide. We just do this, bring our strength all the way down. I think it is also to do with the facial expression. Actually, one thing I want to do, let's add some eyebrows. I'm just going to /, and then we can get a black. Drag our strength, or actually grab the hard brush again. The eyebrows are also a lot to do with the facial expression, so just check what we can do with the Peach looks really pissed off. Cool. It's not really the expression I'm going for, but yeah. The faces are pretty difficult to paint, especially with this many pixels. Let's paint the sun. Obviously, we could also try go for more of a smile. So let's see if we can manage something a bit better. Do like there. Grab our soft brush again. So like here. And then grab the color. Just make it a little bit less, and then I don't know if I want it to peak as high. So like here. Cool. Not super happy with this so far. It's a little bit better. See if we can make it work. Okay, I think maybe just the tiniest bit, knock this like end thing off. There is also a smear tool somewhere. Smear. So like we can kind of pull everything along if we need. So it's a bit better to like, and I think this is, yeah, it is smearing. So you see how we can like kind of pull colors in, but if we drag our strength up on the smear brush, you can maybe like, it's almost like liquify. So there, so everything's quite smooth out, but it is looking better. We can even try to do the same thing with the eyes, because I think like this corner needs to go up. It might just require painting, but let's try. If you see like pushing this up can help the whole shape of everything maybe in slightly. So you see everything is getting super blurred, but then we can just kind of go paint everything back in once we're a little bit more happy with everything. And I keep on managing to get found a way back to the brush. Yeah, okay. I think I'm a little bit happy with this. So let's go back and actually paint these details properly. So here, strength up, and then this is our highlight. We can even brighter if we need, like this. And then the top line can get a little bit of the highlight. I think the color may also be off slightly. And then the shadow. Now correct it. I think it is also to an extent just like kind of smushed on the face. So it's kind of bring back a more harsh line. It might also help. Let's just go back to closest, and then we can have more of a proper distinction between face and lips. Okay, so here, and then let's grab the shadow again, more like here, and then we can smooth this. Make sure, like I'm smoothing out, but I'm not smoothing anything on the lips, like into the skin color. I'm just smoothing around it all. Okay. Texture paint. Grab my brush. It may also be like, usually I have kind of like a darker thing in the corner. So if we can maybe paint a proper line for the middle, and then a proper distinction between everything. Okay. And then maybe we can also just go sort out the face a little bit. The eyes, I mean. So just strengthen these lines a bit. Cool. And then same thing with the eyes. And then let's grab a white to kind of clean these up a little bit. Because obviously, like, it's going to get blurred already, like, on top of everything. So then we need to make sure that, like, we're not, like, the pixels aren't blurring and then we're blurring, so everything becomes super blurry. That kind of messed up the eyes. I think she also looks like she's just staring very far up. I think to an extent it is like something to do with this angle. Sometimes I just do make changes to the actual shape of the model just to kind of update the textures a little bit. Like here, I don't know, that might help. If you see what I mean. Okay. Okay, it's better than it was. Let's go to linear. It's not great, but yeah, I may just have to work on the face separately, but yeah, it's better than it was. I'm just going to kind of bring this back a little bit so it's not as dark on the chin. And then is this the highlight or no? This is the highlight. There we go. Add a little bit of a highlight to the chin. Bring back a bit of a highlight on the cheeks. Might need a bit of a darkening under the eyes like this. Actually, that might be good. We can even bring in like maybe a little bit of a, I don't know, can't remember what the like stuff you put under on the eyelids. But yeah, it may also do just to kind of add some like more strong lines in, if you get what I mean. Also, like we need there. But yeah, okay, cool. Looks pretty good. Save. Make sure that the image is actually getting saved. Yeah, looking not as bad as it could be. Yeah, okay. So I don't know how much we'll be able to do the hair, but we could also do kind of like a bit of a stylized, like highlight kind of thing, where we just do like a bit of a, if you know what I mean. So do like a hair thingy like this. Let me actually see if I can pull up a reference. I mean, to be fair, I think there's like a 95% chance that this is AR, but you get my point. It's probably close to being actually human. But you see kind of how this like a little highlights are done. Maybe something roughly like this should be good. Let's see if we can make it look decent. I think it's probably a little bit too bright. Maybe bring it down to a bit of a darker color. We could also like color it slightly. So like some of these are blue. A little bit of a slightly blue color. Just give it a little bit of a highlight. Then obviously we can blur it out. So again, making it asymmetrical would be better, but I can do that. So to smooth this out a bit. I think when it's like this, it looks a lot better. So we may just need to grab this, save it, get the black, and then paint over a little bit. Just bring it back and then grab this. Maybe make it a little bit darker and then just paint it back in. Yeah, cool. And then you could also do this, then make a brighter version, and then bring it maybe a little less desaturated, and then just kind of come in with a tiny bit extra, but do it mainly in the center. So you can do like this. So it's just like a tiny highlight in the middle to make it quite sparing. And then I'm just going to bring my strength and my smooth down a bit. So like this. And then make sure we go all the way around. So I accidentally overrode it. But yeah, so yeah. Okay, cool. So doesn't look too bad. We should change colors. There we go. Cool. And then again, smooth it. You see how that gives it quite a nice look quite easily. Okay, and then maybe a tiny bit on the thing over here. Can maybe just do like a bit of a thing like this. And then maybe smooth that out a bit. Oh, smooth. Okay, cool. Okay, save it. Obviously, main things left to do is the hands and the shoes. Cool. So let's go to the shoes. So I'm not sure too much what I really want to do with this. But you could maybe do like a pattern on the boot at the bottom of the shoes. So we just go like white, maybe add a gray color, and then get a harder brush like this, and then just kind of. I don't think we can use an X mirror just in terms of whatever. Cool. You just draw it by hand. Like this. You gotta separate it off. And we just have like a pattern on the bottom. I'm not too phased with this. But yeah, so let's draw something random. And then we can probably use the same color like on that little edge going around the side. I'm just going to clean this up. So save the color, grab the white, paint back in, clean up some of these lines that are messed up. Clean up this line. Okay. Then, yeah. And then we can just go like paint in this corner if it's wanting to do that. Yeah. So just go all the way around. Oh, I don't think I've selected everything. Let's go edit mode, just check I've got everything selected. Yeah, there we go. That's working now. Cool. Up to here and go around and there. Cool. I think I messed up slightly, so just go back in with this brush. Okay, cool. And then you can probably smooth it out a little bit. Yep. Okay. Looks kind of goofy, and we probably should have actually like had a whole overlay. Like if we go, yeah, and just grab like this, grab our strength, and then just do like this sort of thing. You know what I mean? Just have a shadow first, and then do our pattern. But oh well, I don't care too much. So yeah, there we go. And then honestly, you could probably just leave the red and not even do that much. But we could also just do like a quick little like pattern across the front, like this. Okay. And then maybe just like give a highlight. Maybe we do the same thing where we could even just like give most of it a highlight like this. And then on the front of it, we grab the proper highlight and then just do like a same thing to the hair kind of thing. And then smooth it out. I'm going to drag my strength up and smooth it even more. Cool. Yeah, looks right. Save it. And then last thing to do is the hands. So I'm going to go to the hands, select everything. Oh. And there you go. Okay, cool. So we are done the texturing. So next thing we can do is make a very simple rig and we'll be done with the character. Okay, so we're not going to be doing a complex rig. We're just going to be a super simple one. So let's just go save this and I'm going to close the UV window. Okay, hide my reference and then I'm just going to go Shift A. I'm going to add a armature. So armature. But before I do that, I'm going to go preferences, get extensions and Rigify. Rigify may need add-ons, not get extensions. So there we go. Cool. Once that's enabled, Shift A, armature, Rigify meta rigs, and go to basic human. Okay. So I'm going to select everything and then deselect the rig. I'm going to go Shift S, cursor to origin, make my show mark 3D cursor in the center. I'm going to go change my pivot point to 3D cursor and then just select one of them so that one of them is highlighted. And then just scale it so it's roughly the same size so that your character isn't like 2 meters tall. Okay, and then we're going to quickly place these bones. So I'm going to go armature tab, viewport display in front so I can actually see everything. I'm going to go to volume over here on the snapping. So what that does is we can actually snap to the center of the mesh. I'm going to turn X mirror on. So when we're editing it, it's mirrored like this. And I'm just going to delete a couple of bones. I don't need these hips bones. So I'm going to delete them. I'm going to dissolve one of these because I only want 3 bones throughout the torso. I only want 1 bone in the neck. So I'm going to dissolve this one. So X dissolve. I'm going to delete these. And then there's also ones behind the heel that I don't need. Okay, so there, and then I can just go start placing them. So this one will be roughly at the bottom of the body. So I'm going to go G, Shift X, and then I can hold Control and it'll snap to the center. So G, Shift X, and hold Control. G, Shift X, hold Control. So essentially this is like covering the pelvis, this is covering the stomach, and this is covering the rib cage. Because obviously like you have a rib cage like this, your rib cage is not going to bend. Your pelvis doesn't bend, so the middle bit is just kind of separated into 3 sections, and that's why I do that. Then for here, hold Control. This is going to be for the collarbone. So roughly place it where the collarbone would be. This top of the arm. This happens to the bottom. So quick little tip on how to best make the or place the arm bone and the knee bone. So place the last one. Select both. Shift S, cursor to be selected. And then go select this one, Shift S, selection to cursor, and then just pull it back slightly. So it's like in the center and it lines up correctly. And using it, push it back slightly. So when we try to animate it, it will bend properly. I'm also going to press Alt R on those, but yeah, doesn't matter too much. I'm going to press G, place this in the middle of the hand. Okay. From here, I'm going to grab this and I'm going to go extrude out to about the center of the fingers, and then extrude out to here. So let's just go fix it in top view, like here. So they just line up with those vertices. For the thumb, I'm going to duplicate the hand, and I'm going to go Shift D to duplicate, and I'm going to place it like roughly over here, and I'm going to place it now on this joint of the thumb, and then extrude out to here. Okay. Actually, I think you have another one, but that's fine. Cool. And we'll fix this later. We'll sort it out. And then the legs, same thing. So I'm going to place it like roughly here. I'm going to place the bottom. Let's just make sure I was going to place it manually, not snap it, because of where it is. It doesn't matter too much. So select the bottom one, select the top one, Shift S, cursor to selected. Grab this, Shift S, selection to cursor. So now it's there. And then just G, Y, and push it forward. Cool. For the foot, just kind of place it wherever, and then drag it forward. And then just GX and line it up with the center of the foot. Again, Alt R. And then I'm just going to place, actually these, I want to join them. So I'm going to select the neck, then the body, Control P, connected. Because like, so now they actually joined. I'm going to drag this as roughly up here. And then place it about here, place it about here. Okay. So the reason we do this whole rigify thing is because it like automatically names a lot of the bones. So you'll see like this has shoulder, upper arm, whatever, head. Actually, don't say head. So I'm going to name this head. This is neck. This is chest. I'd usually call this like torso. This is pelvis. Okay. And then these need to be named as well. So then this is hand.l, and this is going to be called finger underscore base.l. This is going to be called finger underscore tip.l. This is going to be called thumb base.l. This is going to be called thumb underscore tip.l. Okay. And then so those are being mirrored currently, or we will mirror them properly later. Then we can do something for the hair, for these bits that are hanging down. So I'm just going to go G, hold control to place it, and it should place like on the hair itself. If not, just place it manually. So about here, then to about there, and then to about the bottom of it. You see it is placed correctly. Then this can just be called hair, I don't know, hair strand. I'm just going to go 01.l. I'm going to copy this. This is going to be 02, and it's going to be called hair strand 03. Okay. Then I was going to make one more, and this is going to be called, this is going to be for the bun. So we're just going to basically place it roughly in the center of this section, and then place it outside of it like this. And it's going to be called hair bun dot L. Okay. Then from here, we need to set up something called an RK setup. So essentially, I'm going to go to pose mode. So I'm going to go here, pose mode. Actually, before I do that, I'm just going to grab this leg over here, extrude, and press Y. I'm going to select this, Alt P, clear parent. And what this does essentially is we are setting up something called RK, which is going to help us animate. And once we've set it up, it'll show you why. So basically, like if you need to rotate anything, you'd have to rotate it like this. I'm going to change this to median point, but you'll see like it would rotate like this, which is quite difficult if you need to do anything like shifting your weight back and forth, anything like that. So the best way to do it is set up an RK, especially on the legs. So if I go here, I can select this bone, then I can select the calf, go Shift and I, target selected bone, and you'll see, so now it's yellow. If I grab this bone now, you can see it's like moving everything, but it's moving the entire body, which we don't really want. So, and as you see, this yellow line is going back to the like center of the character. What we need to do is over here on the properties, we have this RK constraint. Over here, we need to change it to chain length of 2. Okay. The reason we do chain length of 2 is because we have 2 bones in our leg. So this is the like chain length of 1 will be just the calf. Chain length of 2 will go up to the thigh. And then now, if we take this, you'll see now it is acting like this. And if we were to like shift the weight, you'll see how much easier this is. Okay. But you see the foot is kind of messing around. Like it's not really pointing straight. And this, what's it called? This leg, we don't really have control over where to point it other than rotating. And it's kind of a little bit awkward to use. So the best way to fix this is go back to edit mode. I'm going to grab the knee like this, extrude Y, and then you can grab the bone. So actually, I did it on both just because I selected through, but I'll show you how to symmetrize everything later. So here, I'm going to go click Alt and P, clear parent, G, Y, drag it forward to about here. Then in pose mode, actually, I'm going to name these properly. So I'm going to go, this is going to be called leg pole target dot L. Okay. And this one on the over here needs to be called leg dot L. Okay, so if I go over to here and back to the constraints tab, so now you see the name's been updated, but we need the other one, so we can go meta rig again. So pole target meta rig, and then we can look for the bone, and it's called pole target.l. Okay, so off the rip, I'm not sure why exactly, but it rotates it like 90 degrees. So over here, we just need to go -90. Just make sure, like, you can go back and forth between edit mode and object mode. If it messes up like this, then we've gone a little bit too far. But basically, they need to be roughly similar. So I'm just going to drag this to out there. And you see, if I just tabbing in and out, it's like roughly the same position. So that's good. And then that's all here. But then the foot is still messed up. So if we do like this, the foot's pointing down. It's not, we don't really have control over it from this bone. So the best thing to do is go to the bone properties over here, on relations over here in the bone properties, inherit rotation. Let's turn that off. So now it's not rotating. If you want, you could leave it like this and then just rotate it manually. But what we can also do is we could go to this bone, add a constraint, copy rotation, and then target is going to be called meta rig, and then the bone is going to be called leg _rk.l. So now it's 100% copying this like location or rotation, which is not great. We want to have it just like offset. So we can, I think, use like after. No, that's not right. Sometimes you might just have to use the offset legacy one. That works before original works. So yeah, so just do some tests. You may have any issues, but if you do, go to offset. But if you don't, use before original. But yeah, so you see here, and then sometimes it's nice to have the pole target, because like if you get too close to it or mess up whatever, then the knee will like mess around. So sometimes it's nice to grab the pole target, select the RK, and then go Control P, keep offset, and then the pole target will follow it. So then like if you rotate the foot back and forth, then you'll see the knee follows. Yeah, so that's just a good way to do it. Then from here, you can also do the same thing on the arm. So essentially you just take this, extrude out, do the exact same stuff, like take this, clear parent, etc., etc. Do the exact same process. But for now, I'm just going to select the left side of the character, deselect the middle, X. I think just turn the mirror off. X dissolve, X delete bones, and then we can go armature, symmetrize. Okay. So the whole reason behind that .l naming convention is because .l, and then on the other side would be .r. So that's why we follow it. And then every constraint that we added, so the whoa, why did that all go away? Okay, I guess. So that now it's back for some reason. So again, to turn off X mirror, delete all these bones. Still there. Okay. Armature, symmetrize. Okay, so now it's all there. And you'll see here, like now this will be a lot easier to shift the weight and stuff. We also may need to fix some like parenting stuff, because like here you see none of these hair bones are following the head. So into edit mode, I'm going to grab, so this hair bone, let's turn our X mirror back on, and this bun. Select this, Control P, keep offset, and you'll see now the hair follows. If you want, we could also do another arcade thing for the hair. So if I just extrude from here and then name this like hair strand arcade, and let's make sure that we copy the name across. So arcade or .r, go to actually before we do that, so select both, Alt P, clear parent, and then, or we could actually make it like a parent of the head bone. But in pose mode, I'm going to go select this one, then this one, Shift I to target selected bone. And then over here in the properties, I'm just going to add a chain length of 3. because we have 3 bones. And then here we can control the hair pretty easily like this. And then same thing on the other side, Shift I, target selected bone, change it to 3. And then as I said, so like that's 2, change it to 3. And then so like now if I rotate this, it kind of sticks behind. So what we could do is take these 2 RK bones and parent them also to the head. So keep offset. And then now they follow. And then we can just grab these 2 and change them whenever we need. If you want, like, you don't need to really control these anymore. So you could hard these bones and then just like move these around. Okay. Now, the next thing you need to do is any bones that are not supposed to actually move the mesh, which is all these RK stuff, like these bones, they need to have deform off. So over here, you see it has this deform. So you can just go through and turn all of them off over here. Same thing, like this RK one on the back of the foot and the pole targets. The reason for this is essentially when we go to the next step, which is weight painting, then if you have them with the form on, they will actually affect the mesh. But if you have it off, it won't affect the mesh at all, which is good. So I'm also going to take a look at the hand quickly because I don't think it's been parented correctly. So same thing, the thumb, select the hand, Control P, keep offset. And now you can see everything's good. So rotate, everything's good. And then last thing, we probably should have actually done this before, but essentially you're supposed to set your bone roll so we can recalculate global plus X axis. So essentially what that does is it sets a consistent rotation throughout everything. It actually broke all of this. So let me just go, might have to recalculate this. Yeah, okay, cool. I probably should have done this earlier, but whatever. So I'm just going to set my pole targets back to 0. And I think, so you see, now that we've set our axis, it helps a lot with the rotation stuff. These aren't great in the arm. Like these should be kind of like this. So I'm pressing Alt R to clear them. If you want to see the axes, if you care at all, this is what they look like. Essentially, this is to do with rotation. So I'm happy with these. If you want to check them, you can go to local rotation up here and go to the rotation. So you'll see like, yeah, this is rotating on the Z axis. This is rotating on the X axis. You may want to like rotate this 90 degrees. So I've got Atom. I can go rotate it like this, 90. And then you'll see out on the Z axis. Same thing here. So you just go Control R and rotate 90 degrees like this. And you'll see, so now it's Z and Z. And then this should also be Z. So like if we grab all of these and rotate on the Z axis on individual origins up here, then you can see how they go in on the same like amount. But yeah. Okay, cool. So just a quick little dump of information. And then I also had to remove this copy rotation. So copy rotation, meta rig. And then I'm going to go to RK, so leg RK.L and change it to before original. Okay, now it doesn't seem to be happy unless this may just need to be rotated. I'm just going to go change this roll to 0. Okay, same thing over here. With that also 0. Cool. And then we can add a copy rotation of meta rig and RK, leg RK.R and change it to before original and we good. So there we go. And then I can go hard my axes. So all of the bones that are deformed should be off, whatever. So now we can select our mesh or select our rig, just select everything with A and then go Control P with automatic weights. If I do this now, I can select my rig and you'll see my mesh starts moving with it. And stuff that may mess up is like the hair. You'll see that kind of not everything is following properly. So essentially what we need to do now is we can go select our mesh, go Control Tab, weight paint, and then I don't know why this looks so weird. Oh, I think turn this little section thing off. But essentially every single group over here, so you see like hair strand, this should not be affecting the torso at all. So I'm going to hold Control and then just remove from here. So like this. So just go through, make sure like the head is not being affected by the hair strand. Currently, I think we have X-axis mirror on. So like hair strand.L is only affecting this left side of the face. So you might have to go to the .R and then affect this, again, the left side of the face, but with the other side of it, if that makes any sense at all. So again, like this the bun shouldn't really be changing the head itself. like this. So if we go to the head, I'm just going to hold left click, just paint on, like their head should be controlling all of this. Cool. And then go to the hair as well. So this is essentially how you would go through and fix everything. So head, like your hair should be followed, most of it should be following like this. The buns should maybe like this bit, maybe. And then that's the toe, my bad. Let's go up all the way to the head. So then like a little bit like this. And then find the bun, hair bun dot L. Somewhere, there we go. So as we just hold control and move a little bit like this. I don't know if I have X mirror on. Let's go check hair bun dot R. Yeah, it's mirrored quite well. And then you can take these and rotate and see what happens. So like this, I would say this needs to have less hair bun on. So we just go remove this. Like you don't want the hair bun to be like making the head concave in. So yeah, like this. Okay, and we can test out like that all works fine. So basically you have to go through and check everything. So like there you see like the arms affecting quite a lot over here. So we can go to upper arm somewhere, upper arm.L. So I can just remove from here. So I'm just holding control. Similar thing to the painting, just like with this. I'm going to paint back on here. Cool. And then we can go find like chest and then paint back in like this. Okay. And then I might just remove a little bit from, you don't want to be like, you want to be controlling too far out of the bone itself. So yeah. Okay, cool. And then go pelvis, paint it in. Yeah, so I'm just doing this quite rough because I just want to quickly get a rough idea for you. But yeah, I think most of it should be fine from here. So yeah, if you want to mess around with a lot more of this, feel free. But this is essentially what you need to do. And this should now be a bit better. But you just need to change like hair strand. So like this hair strand, the bone only starts like here. So then this should only be affecting like this. Nothing up here should be affected by this hair strand. So it's just essentially, you need to just kind of some common sense of where's the bone, what should it move? And that's essentially all weight painting is. You just need to kind of adjust how stuff is going to move according to like what bone do you want to do what. So like sometimes you need to smooth stuff out, especially like this. But this should now be a lot better because it's doing that. But now you see like it, if I go to this one, it's affecting this. So then I need to go to hair strand and the R, the right side, and then clear up the left like that. And then now you see that moving a lot better. Yeah. Okay, cool. Okay, and there you go. You have created a game character from start to finish, and I hope you've enjoyed. As I said before, if you want to learn how to take your characters to the next level, if you want to go a bunch more in depth on all of the stuff that we've covered in this video today, then go check out the first link in the description to go check out the Potter Academy, where you can learn a whole bunch more about creating PS1 characters like this, a whole bunch more about modeling, how about to animate your own characters. Also, if you want to learn more about like weight painting and stuff, in my low poly character course, I go a lot more in depth in there. In the future, I'll be bringing out a rigging course about how to make a more advanced rig, something like this guy. I think I've just broke my site. Interesting. Let me refresh. So something closer to this, essentially, where you can create a lot more high quality rig. There is also a recent video on my channel if you want to check out that. But yeah, I highly recommend, if you really enjoyed this video, then it really supported me if you go buy the courses over there. But yeah, so it allows me to keep this channel alive if you support me over there, and allows me to drop cool tutorials like this. So yeah, hope you've enjoyed, and I hope to see you in the next video. Cheers.